can't do that.
Do not touch him. Please do not assault him.
29-year-old Sarah Mills and 20-year-old Anthony Baylog were driving to a car dealership when they were stopped by Corporal Michael Miller of the Henry County Sheriff's Office in Abbeville, Alabama.
Actually, yep.
Okay. So do you have your ID on you?
Yeah.
Do you have yours, please, too?
Is that needed?
Yes, sir.
Why do you need his?
Yeah, what do you...
I just want to know who I'm dealing with.
I don't need to provide that. I'm not the one driving, so...
Passengers of detained motor vehicles are not required to present their identification unless an officer has acquired reasonable suspicion that they were involved in criminal activity. In an interview with the Dothan Eagle, Henry County Sheriff Will Maddox claimed that Corporal Miller detected the odor of emanating from Mrs. Mills's vehicle, which would in fact satisfy the reasonable suspicion needed to order Mr. Baylog to identify himself. Mrs. Mills and Mr. Baylog have since refuted the officer's claims, and Officer Miller never mentions the odor of at any point during the interaction. All that said, officers are not required to state their reasoning for demanding identification, and are under no legal obligation to tell citizens that they have detected the odor of...
I'm asking you to identify yourself to me, okay?
Yeah.
And you are a passenger in this vehicle.
Correct.
I want to know who you are so I know who I'm dealing with.
Okay.
Okay? When you're issued a license, even in Florida, it's really property of the state of Florida.
Right. He doesn't have a license.
Do you have any kind of ID to prove?
Yeah, no, not on me right now.
Not on
so.
you. Do you have
No,
a full
he's
ID?
driving. No, he doesn't have a license.
No, I mean,
Yeah, not on me right now.
but you do have one from issued from Florida, right?
Yeah, but it's not on me.
Okay, what is your first name?
I don't think I should be providing that. I'm not the one under question here. I'm not the one behind the wheel, so...
Okay.
Yeah.
Step on the vehicle.
Yeah, shit.
Did he do something?
Am I being detained?
Well, what are we being detained for?
Investigation, yes. Step out of the
Well, an investigation on what?
talking with him. I've already told you last time. Step out of the
Yeah, but you didn't stop him. Hold on, I got you. I got it.
And what's the investigation?
Step out of the vehicle, sir. Open the door and step out.
If I'm not
If you're
under...
refusing to cooperate and answer my questions, okay? Now,
That's
I
not
know where
against
this is
the law.
going because I've done this, all right? But you are part of the vehicle, and I stopped her for speeding, and I like to know who you are. And you're giving me this deal. Well, I don't think I have to identify you.
Well, no, we don't think we know.
Stand still, okay?
Yeah, I
So-
know I don't have to provide my identification.
You don't?
No, sir.
You should.
No, I'm not a part of this.
Okay,
I'm not
well,
driving.
here's the
so-
thing. But you are a passenger in the vehicle, okay?
So if I had my
have
kids, would they have to
nothing.
ID too?
I needed to, yes.
But my children are
But they're not
children.
here, so that's really a moot point. So now you can either cooperate, but the more that you refuse to answer my questions or tell me who you are, pending the investigation, now you're obstructing my investigation.
But there's no investigation.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
there is.
No.
That's your vehicle.
Do you have a supervisor we could speak
I am
to?
a supervisor.
Officers are well within their authority to order a passenger into or out of a detained vehicle. The 1977 Supreme Court case of Pennsylvania versus Mims granted officers the authority to control the movement of drivers they have detained. And in the 1997 Supreme Court case of Maryland versus Wilson, the court extended that authority to also include passengers of detained vehicles. Alabama Code 13A-10-2 states that a person commits the crime of obstructing governmental operations if, by means of intimidation, physical force, or interference, or by any other independently unlawful act, he intentionally obstructs, impairs, or hinders the administration of law or other governmental function, or intentionally prevents a public servant from performing a governmental function. Mr. Baylogs' refusal to obey Corporal Miller's commands would likely constitute a violation of this code, because he was lawfully ordered to exit the vehicle and willfully declined to do so. If Corporal Miller did in fact detect the odor of Mr. Baylog could potentially be charged under Code 13A-10-2 for refusing to provide identification.
You can identify yourself to me and we can move along.
Did you identify yourself? You don't have a
Corporal
badge.
Miller, I already have.
Would
The
you have
badge
a
is right
number?
here.
Your badge number?
You guys not have badge numbers
I
here?
have badge number. So,
Did you
again,
provide your badge
I
number?
just did. I told you who I am.
And your badge number?
You don't need that. Is
I do need
impertinent.
that.
Well, sir, this is just a traffic stop,
do
so
need
you
that.
really
So
just
now
need
I'm
my
asking you,
license.
Step out of the vehicle.
I'd like to ask for your badge number again. And you have not
I
provided that yet.
introduced myself
You
to you
are
and I'm a
legally
uniform.
supposed to provide your badge number
No,
and
I'm
name.
not.
Yes,
Well,
you are.
legally, if you're in uniform, you have to.
Contrary to popular belief, officers are under no legal obligation to identify themselves to members of the public. Most departments draft policies which require their officers to identify themselves upon request. However, those policies are not based on any legal standard or case law. Furthermore, officers who violate those policies are not always subject to reprimands, and the department may choose whether to administer disciplinary action or not. The scope and stringency of these policies vary wildly from department to department, but as Mr. Baylog and Mrs. Mills discover later in this episode, that is not always the case for rural departments.
All right, step out of the vehicle again. I'm going to take you out of the vehicle.
As soon as you provide
No,
me
you
with your
can't.
badge
You
number,
can't.
if you grab me, that's an assault. You understand
You can't
that?
assault him
You
because he
understand
doesn't
that's
want to
assault.
give his
If you let me out of the
information.
You're refusing to
You
get out
have
of the
yet
vehicle.
to
Well, he
provide.
shouldn't have to. This is a traffic stop, sir.
Your name and badge
This-
number.
if
How do I
you're-
know who you are if you haven't
Hold on.
provided your name?
If we're being detained for something, now I am because I was
You
speeding.
can't do that. You
Do
can't-
not touch him.
you
Please
cannot
do
do
not
that to
assault
assault.
him.
Corporal Miller extracts Mr. Baylog from the vehicle, places him into handcuffs, and puts him in the back of his patrol car. He then orders Mrs. Mills to stand near her vehicle, but she refuses to comply several times. Once backup arrives on the scene, Mrs. Mills continues to disobey the commands of the officers and is eventually arrested and taken to jail along with Mr. Baylog. Mrs. Mills was charged with obstructing government operations, resisting arrest, and speeding, and Mr. Baylog was charged with obstructing government operations and criminal mischief. No drugs were found in the vehicle or in Mr. Baylog or Mrs. Mills' possession, and their vehicle was towed. The two were released from jail 3 days later and were unable to locate their impounded vehicle. Nearly 3 weeks after the incident, Mr. Baylog and Mrs. Mills went to the sheriff's office to inquire about where their vehicle was being stored and whether or not they were able to retrieve their personal belongings they had left in the vehicle. By then, the video of their encounter had circulated the community, and the staff at the sheriff's office refused to tell them where their vehicle was being stored and insisted that they must speak with Sheriff Maddox. 5 days later, the two were able to meet with Sheriff Maddox, who initially refused to allow them to access their vehicle, but eventually allowed the two to gather their belongings with a police escort. In the description of the video of the meeting with Sheriff Maddox, Mr. Baylog and Mrs. Mills claim that upon arriving to work 2 days after their meeting, the two were met with 6 police officers waiting outside of their workplace with the human resources manager and were fired from their job. Following the encounter, the two started a GoFundMe in order to obtain legal representation against the sheriff's office, but the fund was deactivated after only receiving $30 in donations. It is unclear whether Mr. Baylog or Mrs. Mills filed a formal lawsuit, but it appears as though Mr. Baylog has since moved out of Abbeville. Overall, Corporal Miller and the Henry County Sheriff's Office get an F. Because although much of their conduct was legal, Corporal Miller made no effort to de-escalate the encounter, failed to offer a legitimate reason for requesting Mr. Baylog's identification. Much of the validity of Corporal Miller's conduct during this interaction hinges on the scent of marijuana, and it is extremely difficult to dispute the odor of marijuana inside a courtroom. If Corporal Miller did in fact smell marijuana, it is highly suspicious that he did not mention that to Mr. Baylog or Mrs. Mills. If the corporal had taken time to explain that he had detected the smell, then he could have established some kind of reasoning to his actions and shifted the dynamic of the interaction. Mr. Baylog and Mrs. Mills also get an F for displaying a fundamental misunderstanding of several laws, disobeying a lawful command, and conducting themselves in a way that will only serve to incriminate them inside a courtroom. Much of Mr. Baylog and Mrs. Mills' legal knowledge was a hit and miss, and their emotionally distraught candor contributed to the escalation of the encounter. Just as a surface-level understanding of the law has the potential to aid citizens during a police interaction, it can also harm citizens if it is not wielded correctly. Passionately defending misconceptions about the laws regarding police conduct often results in a false sense of injustice, and generally leads to an arrest. It is extremely important to ensure that your assertions about the law are indisputable, or else you risk being arrested and damaging your chances of finding justice inside the courtroom. It is vitally important to maintain your emotional stability during police encounters, and Mrs. Mills' conduct was uncalled for and certainly ruined her chances of finding an attorney to represent her. Although Mr. Baylog and Mrs. Mills may very well have been victims of police misconduct and retaliation, their chances of finding justice were all but destroyed by their lack of legal knowledge and emotionally charged conduct.